You know that feeling when your body is still, but your mind is sprinting? When you finally sit down, and instead of peace, you meet 1,000 unfinished thoughts. That quiet agitation, that subtle itch to do something, change something, scroll something, fix something. That is restlessness. And if you've ever felt it, you're not broken. You're human. Restlessness isn't a flaw in your character. In Buddhism, it's seen as a natural movement of the mind when it hasn't learned how to rest, just like a child who's overtired but can't fall asleep. The mind keeps running because it doesn't know how to stop safely, so it reaches for noise, for stimulation, for control. Not because you're weak, but because part of you is trying to protect you from something it doesn't yet trust. Stillness. Restlessness is not some strange condition that only a few people suffer from. It is one of the most common experiences of being human. Every mind at some point feels unsettled, impatient, and unable to stay with the present moment. We look around and assume others are calm, grounded, and certain, while we feel scattered and uneasy inside. But the truth is that restlessness is a shared inner weather. It shows up when we are tired, overwhelmed, uncertain, or even when we are close to something meaningful. It is the mind's way of saying something is moving inside us. The problem is not that restlessness exists. The problem is that we interpret it as a personal failure. We tell ourselves that we should be more focused, more disciplined, more peaceful by now. So instead of meeting restlessness with understanding, we meet it with judgment. And that judgment adds another layer of tension on top of what was already there in the Buddhist perspective. Restlessness is not a defect in your personality. It is a natural response of the mind to discomfort, change, and desire. When we stop seeing it as something wrong with us and start seeing it as something happening in us, the relationship shifts. We move from shame to curiosity, from resistance to care. And that shift is where healing begins. When the mind feels uneasy, it almost always looks for an exit. It wants to get away from the discomfort of not knowing, not having, not being enough. So it reaches outward. It scrolls, plans, analyzes, replays, and imagines. On the surface, this looks like productivity or problem solving, but underneath it is often avoidance. The mind is trying to stay busy so it does not have to stay still. Distraction becomes a kind of anesthesia. We fill every quiet space with noise, every empty moment with activity. We tell ourselves we are just being efficient, but really, we are. Afraid of what might surface if we stop, stillness exposes what thinking hides. When the mind is constantly moving, it never has to feel what the heart is holding. Control is another form of escape. We try to manage outcomes, people, and even our own emotions so we do not have to sit with uncertainty. We think if we can just arrange life correctly, restlessness will go away. But the opposite is often true. The more we try to control, the tighter the mind becomes. Buddhism points out that this endless movement is not freedom. It is fear in motion. Real peace does not come from running faster. It comes from learning how to stop gently and stay. In Buddhism, restlessness is not treated as a mistake to eliminate, but as a message to understand. The mind is always communicating, and restlessness is one of its most honest signals. It says, something inside you is unsettled, unfinished, or unheard. Instead of pushing that feeling away, the Buddhist approach is to turn toward it with awareness, rather than asking how to get rid of restlessness. Buddhism asks what it is trying to show you. Maybe you are longing for meaning, safety, connection, or rest. Maybe you have been ignoring your limits or betraying your own needs. Restlessness arises not to punish you, but to wake you up. In the Buddhist tradition, one of the 5 mental hindrances is restlessness and worry. But a hindrance is not an enemy. It is more like a fog that clouds perception. You do not fight fog, you learn how to see through it. When you sit with restlessness in meditation, you begin to notice its texture. You feel it in the body. You watch it in the thoughts. And as you observe it, something surprising happens. It loses its power to drive you. Restlessness stops being a force that controls you and becomes a sensation you can hold. This is the shift from being owned by your mind to being in relationship with it. And that relationship is the beginning of freedom. For many people, stillness feels like a punishment. Sitting quietly can feel like doing nothing, wasting time, or facing something uncomfortable. We are taught to move, achieve, and fix. So when we are asked to stop, the nervous system often panics. It does not know how to rest without feeling unsafe. That is why stillness feels heavy at first. But in Buddhism, stillness is not a withdrawal from life. It is a medicine for the mind. Just like the body heals when it finally lies down, the mind heals when it is allowed to be quiet without pressure. Stillness is not about forcing thoughts to disappear. It is about giving the mind permission to settle. When you sit in stillness, you are not trying to become calm. You are letting calm reveal itself. Under all the mental noise, there is a natural clarity that has never been disturbed. Stillness simply removes the interference. At first, stillness may feel awkward, restless, or emotional. That does not mean it is not working. That means it is working. You are touching layers that movement has been covering for a long time. Stillness is not a discipline of harsh control. It is an act of kindness toward your inner life. It is how you tell yourself you are allowed to stop running now. And when the running stops, peace has space to arrive. Compassionate awareness is the heart of the Buddhist cure for restlessness. It means paying attention to your inner world without trying to fix it, judge it, or rush it. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" you gently ask, "What is happening in me?" That shift in language changes everything. When you meet your thoughts and feelings with softness instead of criticism, the nervous system begins to relax. You are no longer in a fight with yourself. You are in a relationship with yourself. Restlessness often intensifies when it feels unwanted. But when it is met with care, it starts to unwind. Compassionate awareness is not passive. It is deeply attentive. You notice the breath. You feel the body. You watch the mind without getting dragged by it. You allow sensations to come and go without chasing or rejecting them. This is how space opens inside you. In Buddhism, this is called mindfulness with kindness. Awareness alone can feel cold. Kindness alone can feel vague. Together, they become healing. When you learn to be present with yourself in this way, restlessness no longer needs to shout to get your attention. It knows you are listening. And when the mind feels heard, it naturally settles. Peace is not something you achieve. It is something that emerges when you stop abandoning yourself.